Thanks for staying with us. Moving on now to our next topic. So last Wednesday in the House of Representatives, a bill seeking to domesticate the Domestic Workers' Bill of Rights in Nigeria passed its second reading. The bill, sponsored by Honorable Alabi, is aimed at establishing comprehensive labor protections for domestic workers, ensuring fair wages, improved working conditions, and legal recognition of their rights. In his submission on the floor, Honorable Alabi stressed the urgent need to formalize protection for domestic workers who remain among the most vulnerable labor groups in Nigeria. Joining us on the show to give an insight to what the bill seeks to achieve is the Honorable himself, Honorable Alabi. Welcome to the show, representing Egbeda on our federal constituency in the National Assembly. Welcome to the show, sir.
About your state.
Good morning. Good to have you.
A pleasure.
So, I mean, this bill is something many of us can relate to because we've discussed the issue of domestic workers even on this show several times. But give us an insight into the origin of this bill and why you thought it was important to push this bill.
Fantastic. If you watched my debate on the floor of the House, I looked at it from two angles. I looked at it as a legislative responsibility and also as a moral responsibility. When I say as a legislative responsibility, what I mean is that in the year 2010, Nigeria signed a treaty at the Domestic Workers' Convention at the International Labour Organization in Geneva. We signed an international treaty to guarantee the rights of, it's called Domestic Workers' Bill of Rights. But since then, since we signed that treaty, we've not been able to make it a law locally. And for those that understand how treaties work, those that understand international relations, Nigeria is what we call a dualist state, which means that if we sign a treaty, we still have to create a law locally before it can be enforceable.
Okay.
Right? So the opposite is the monist states, where once you sign the treaty, it's enforceable locally. But Section 12 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 999 as amended, states categorically the National Assembly must create a law. So what usually happens is that the executive will go to conventions, will go to meetings and sign treaties, they dies. In fact, I can tell you categorically that we've got about 5,000 treaties that we've signed, but we've not made law in Nigeria.
Wow.
And that's a problem. And we have to look at the Treaties Act to amend it. Maybe we have to say once you sign a treaty, you have to bring it to National Assembly within 30 days or 60 days, or it's null and void and so on. Why sign a treaty when we know that we have no plans to enforce it locally? So I was looking at treaty. I was actually writing a thesis in a school about treaties, and I started investigating the treaties that have not been signed. Then I remember the Ninth Assembly, 2019 to 2023, the House Committee on Treaties, Honorable Nicholas Osai, and I researched the works he did about treaties, thousands of treaties that have not been domesticated. So I now saw this one about domestic workers. I said, wow, I've always been thinking about this. Like you said, a lot of people have been thinking about it. You said you've talked about it on this show as well. So I said, this is fantastic. Then since we have a treaty, so there's a legal basis we can build on. I'm not starting this from scratch. Some people have talked about it. Some people have signed this treaty. And of course, the moral angle. Look, what a lot of domestic workers are going through in homes across the country. It's terrible. It's modern day slavery. We hear stories. We see trending videos of people who have beat up young maids and all that, use blade to, we've killed them, right? We've heard stories like that. So there has to be a lot to protect domestic workers, maids, cooks.
So what does your bill propose? What is it proposing?
Well, it's a comprehensive bill, and I'll rather at a public hearing, the date has not been announced yet. When we're going, because the bill just killed second reading, it's been forwarded to the Committee on Labour, who will now take over and organize the public hearing. Then every single detail of the bill is got to be debated upon. I don't want to come and say this is what we should do because it will look like we've already taken the position. I want all Nigerians to come.
Okay.
I believe personally there should be minimum wage that they should earn. There should be like the number of hours they can work.
Yes.
And
Access
you
to social
cannot
security.
physically harm them and stuff like those are my personal beliefs. But I don't want to preempt what the others will want to contribute to.
I really like that, in our lifetime, we're seeing a bill that, upgrades what we know as domestic workers from our generation. They were not a part of the labor laws in any way. So I must commend you for that. But I would really like to know if there's a gap where somebody can escape from this bill. This is where I'm coming from. So a diplomat was of Southeastern African origin was arrested sometime in the UK, and the video surfaced of her saying, I only helped the girl because, British laws on domestic workers is well defined. But he clearly caught her here, the laws, and she was saying, I helped the girl. And I was saying in Nigeria, she will get away with it because we help a lot of people.
That's what,
so is there a clear definition that, captures what it is, whether or not both of us has defined it to be something else? If I were your employer now, that's a dream come true. I was your employer of Honorable. And
you are my employer now.
Yes, you are.
Technically.
You are. And then I come and say, no, I only helped him. He's my brother's sister's son, my cousin's sister Peking. And I brought him to the UK and now reach here and he's such an ungrateful person. Can the courts leave our relationship and define that you're my worker and that you have those rights?
And also just
based on the books.
Yeah, just for context, so that it's more relatable. Because once you say go abroad, even within our country, that you bring someone from the village or wherever and the person comes to stay with you, is there a should there be a separation between relationship and a worker, domestic worker?
Firstly, I'm not trying to make a law for Nigerians. Like, I'm not a military man to say this is the law. What I'm doing is creating a platform for all of us to decide what's going to be in that bill. It's not about me. Okay, I set the ball rolling, but it's for all of us to come together to decide what we want. I think we're going to face a lot of resistance at a point. On the surface, a lot of people are excited about the bill.
Until
domestic workers, we protect them, everybody, until
you realize that boy in your house.
They now think about what they are doing in their own home. After all, I see they were poor in their family. I brought him from the village. He now wants to form rights.
You're talking from the beneficiary's point of view. Imagine the parents of a domestic child whose parents are subscribed to him. Now, it's my sister.
Take him away.
This is how there's a system where this works. So
that's what I'm saying. On the surface, a lot of people are saying this is exciting, but we are going to face a lot of pushback at a point. And that's why I will be needing everyone's support one way or the other to find the right balance on how we can craft these laws. But what I propose, sort of minimum wage, minimum working conditions, minimum standards of working conditions, hours to work, and protection against physical harms. Those are my own contributions. We will need contributions from more people and more stakeholders at the public hearing.
Yeah, so I'm just foreseeing the difficulty the bill will face because
I don't doubt it.
We have a system, like she rightly said, where it's now family. You are in Lagos, please carry my son or carry my daughter. And when those kids come, you don't pay them. The least you do is, or the most you do is to put them in school, which they will work from morning till night, or even when they come back from school, they are not resting while your kids are resting. We know how these things play out. And I know that there will be, a sort of pushback. But is there any way that we can start having the conversation that for you to get a domestic worker, you must go through an agency? And then the agencies are equipped. So even if you, as a family member now, you want to send your son, you register your son with the agency that now takes your son to your sisters so that
Government agency?
no, it could be individuals. We have individuals that handle
So
domestic.
they should be licensed
They
then.
should be
Those ones have to be
licensed.
licensed and regulated.
Yes. So that even if nobody has an excuse of I just sent my child to Nima's house because I'm related to Nima. I registered my child. I want my child to work for Nima, right? I have a choice to pick the person,
tough.
but I registered my child with so and so person because they are in charge now of making sure that everything that's accrued to him will get to the child. Is that something that would make it easier for us to?
It's not a bad idea, but it's going to make the bill harder to pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the sense that you now have to establish the regulatory framework for these
Private
agents and make sure it works well before you can now create a bill to say they should pass through that.
Okay, I have to go on a very short break because I want to ask about when this public hearing is going to be, because Nigerians are definitely interested in this. But let me go on a short break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.